And today we are talking to one of our fans, Kevin Porth, and he recommended that we read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So that is what we are doing. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. The book never would have went past that scene. They would have been like, Isaac and Edmund are still here eating Turkish delights for just the next 100 pages.
We're going back. It's getting a bit weird in Narnia.
Let's go beyond the first page. Let's go beyond the first page.
Welcome back, Second Pagers. This is Beyond the First Page podcast with siblings Phoebe, Phil, and Isaac. I'm Phoebe.
I'm Phil.
I'm Isaac.
And today we are talking to one of our fans, Kevin Porth, and he recommended that we read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So that is what we are doing. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for recommending this book.
You got a good podcast voice, Kevin.
That's just like
really dialed in there. You could just like
It just got very serious. Yeah.
You got a sort of a radio voice. Like I can imagine going to school and you're just like, next top 40 is just on, just you and the team.
Phil, I'm already nervous, man. You're not helping. That was my best line. That's all I got.
Well, it's better than saying that you have a face for radio. So that's
that is
a compliment. And you picked such a good book. And I actually, the question I wanted to ask you guys was, what was the best literary or like pop culture allegory? But I think you picked it because when I was Googling to jog kind of my idea of like what I wanted to say for this opening question, I think The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was mentioned almost exclusively as like the number one allegory.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, we read it. But I will open it up to you guys, and Isaac, you can go first. I will say also, I want to define allegory because
very helpful.
If you define it, that might exclude mine. I will.
I think it actually opens things up even more.
I think.
Yeah. Because this morning I was looking, I thought it had to be like a very specific tie to a like real world or supposed real world event, but it's more broad than that. It's basically just like any deeper meaning or hidden meaning in any story. So essentially like most books are an allegory for something. So anyways, Isaac, I'll pass it to you to say your allegory. And if that changes, that's fine. You can change yours.
So my favorite, I think, is, like you said, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But another one that I really enjoy, which will also be my recommendation, is the His Dark Materials series, which is The Golden Compass, Amber Spyglass, and The Subtle Knife. And that one is actually like an anti-Narnia. It's Philip Pullman's reaction to C.S. Lewis, so it's an anti-Christian allegory, I guess, but it's still really cool to read. The first time I read it, I was a kid and I didn't realize it at all, and then it took me to read it a second time to like kind of pick that up. But a really cool premise and a very interesting 3 books.
Is it just because it's all science-based, like the reason that they have power is due to science, or?
It's not science. There's still like God in it and stuff, but kind of the church is like the bad guys, kind of.
Yeah.
And like they're fighting against angels. Like God is repressive to humanity. Yeah.
I'll have to give that one a reread too. Kevin, what about you?
So I had to Google what exactly your question was. The best literary pop culture. I saw pop culture, so I was going to just go with MGK, and then I realized it was supposed to be a book category. So the one that popped up.
Yeah, also I want to expose Phoebe that she solicited advice on how to word that question, and she said, should I just ask him the best literature / pop culture allegory? And both Isaac and I said, no, you should ask something different. She just went with her original question. Just gave her a completely different, more clear wording. Yes, you did. And she doesn't read the text messages. So, and then she just went with her own. Just straight up.
Yeah,
So any answer you give here is open, Kevin.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
go,
it's
just
good. It's
anything you
safe.
say will be
Safe.
correct.
No, I thought it was a great
Yeah.
question for the record, Phoebe.
Thank you.
Lord of the Flies was one that popped up that I recognized, and honestly, I haven't probably was read that in like middle school, and couldn't tell you a whole lot about it, but I just remember it being a pretty crazy and really good book at the time. So yeah, that's my answer for that one.
And a little plug for the podcast. We actually read that last year. So you could check out or anyone listening could check out the episode if you want a little refresher on what happened. That was another one I saw, though, Kevin. That's a really good
Yeah.
one. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, if you guys listened, I loved the quote where C.S. Lewis is like, well, you might be too old to read this when I finish it, but maybe in a couple of years, you'll be old enough to read it again and get something different from that. And I thought that was really good. And I think that along the same veins, Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift and Candide by Voltaire are both children's stories that are sort of criticizing the political climate of Britain. So I think both of those are very good. And you can read them to your kid, whereas the kid's getting a fairy tale and you're getting the allegorical meaning behind it.
Cool. Yeah, you've mentioned those a few times, Phil, so that's a good reminder for us. And I will also say one that I've mentioned, although I'll give Dune as kind of a honorable mention. I've said Anna Karenina a lot, but that was one of the first books where I felt like I got the deeper meaning before I Googled it to figure out what the deeper meaning was. So like one of the characters, Anna, was kind of gluttonous and she cared a lot about what people thought of her. And in the end, it brought her no good things. And then the other character who was kind of her opposite was very humble and like chaste, and he ended up having a good life at the end. So really good book. It's a haul of a read, but that would be my recommendation. And this was a good starter convo, and most people know Narnia or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe already, but if you don't, Isaac can give us that in 15 seconds.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this book is about four siblings who are living in this old man professor's house out in the country of England, and they discover this enchanted world through a wardrobe that's in his house. And they get in there and they realize that it's imprisoned by this evil witch, and they work with the founder or like god of the world, which is Aslan, this big lion, to free it from the witch and then end up ruling Narnia into their adult lives. And then they find their way back out of the wardrobe by happenstance years later, and no time has passed in our world.
Yeah, perfect. Kevin, so had you read this book as a kid, or were you hoping to read it for the first time?
I had read it as a kid. I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents or mom read with us a lot growing up. We had the whole series, all seven of them.
Yeah, so did we.
Yeah, I still like picture
Yeah,
him sitting on
Isaac
the
owned it.
bookshelf, like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
obviously, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was the favorite, and had been a lot of years.
Yeah, I texted our cousin who has a 6-year-old who reads chapter books already, and I had recommended that he read this, and he's already read it and loved it. And I really enjoyed it, actually. It's a very quick read, which is, I think, a big win. And we had talked previously on a podcast about like young adult versus this other category. I don't know if we ever even named it, but I would say that this fell into that, like, it's before young adult. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, whatever that like chapter book.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is one of those, I think, a little bit different than we read Impossible Creatures, which whatever that category that was in, and this is very similar. Like Phil kind of said, and I'm sure the entire series of the Chronicles of Narnia are like this, that you could pick it up and get something out of it at, as soon as you can read 15, 25,
Yeah.
35, 50. And you're going to get something out of it. The story is just so good. Like, I think it is kind of like the pinnacle of just like how to,
like a bedtime story.
Yeah. Or I was even just going to say, like, kind of like a fantasy story in general. You break a fantasy story down to its bones. Like,
it's perfect.
It doesn't get better than The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
There's exploration. Yeah. There's immediate fall. there's recovery, there's like, oh, something bad is happening, and then there's a final battle. And that's like what a fantasy novel is every single time.
Yeah.
And he does it in 160 pages, double space. So yeah.
Well, and when I was a kid, I did not obviously get the allegory, and I knew that it had an allegory, but reading it the second time around, it felt very obvious to me. What did you guys think? That, like, it was a very obvious, or maybe not, but my interpretation was Aslan was Jesus, and he was coming back to save everybody on Earth.
Yeah, I thought especially going back, reading as an adult, I think some of that stuff was somewhat obvious as a kid reading it, but now almost to like it was so obvious, like you said, Aslan being Jesus, and I think some of the siblings kind of being different characters in the Bible, and then obviously the witch kind of representing the devil. But I think there was also a lot of underlying less obvious parts of the analogy as well. But I read something interesting that C.S. Lewis didn't mean it not strictly as a theological treatise, but also as a fairy tale for children to enjoy too, which kind of plays into what you guys were saying, that regardless of what age, if you're reading it, it's like whatever when I did first as a 7 or 8 year old and now as a 31-year-old, you can get some of the same stuff, but also a lot of different and kind of more deeper meaning too.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's not on the nose. Like, you don't have to take any religious or like Christian meaning from this book if you don't want to, and it's still like a really fun, good, moving story.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it makes it more obvious if you know it's there. You're kind of looking for it more. This time around, I was reading, and there's like when he goes to the table and they like time down to it, and then when he comes alive, it like the table cracks, and I was like, oh, that's like the cracking of the stone in front of his grave, which is the first time I like kind of thought of that.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't take that at all. I thought it different. When Jesus died, the cloth in the tabernacle that separates man from the altar of the covenant, basically that rips down the middle. So it's this huge, thick curtain that like only the high priest could go once a year. And Jesus's death basically symbolizes that we are now with God, and that's what I took to be the crack. But yours also makes sense, and I think that's why it's nice. Yeah. It's not 100% on the nose. I think that Animal Farm, the only times that Animal Farm's like sort of allegory got to me a little bit, is just like, okay, he did exactly this, dude. Like you literally just made him a pig and he did exactly this. And I think that it takes, like what Kevin said, is he wrote this as a fairy tale. And I think that some of what made it successful is him not being so on the nose and leading it a little bit up to interpretation. So I think it's interesting that we both got different things from that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like little funny lines that I found myself like not hilariously laughing to, but just chuckling at, which I can always appreciate. Yeah. One of them was when Edmund goes into the world and then he lies about it to make Lucy look silly. Yeah. And then they go back in and they're arguing, and Edmund goes, "Everyone knows you can't believe everything fawns say," like just so bad. And everyone just accepts it, and they're like, "Yeah, I guess you're right, probably." Those fawns can be rascals sometimes. I thought that like had me chuckling for a while. And the other one was near the end when Aslan is freeing all the stone animals.
The giant feet.
Well, the giant was a funny character, but the line that was funny was there was the other stone
lion.
And he's like, and Aslan goes like, "We need like the wolves and the dogs to come up here with us lions to like smell out the scent of the witch or whatever." And then he's just running around, and the author's like, or I guess C.S. Lewis in the writing, he's like, he was not really providing that much help, but he was just running around being like, "Did you hear him? Us lions." He said, "Us lions."
I
which
thought
I'm
the
just like imagining in my head is just so hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought the quote about the giant was funny because Lucy and Susan were scared of the giant and they were like, ooh, like Aslan's gonna wake that giant up. And Lucy goes, are you sure it's gonna be okay? And Aslan just goes, well, his feet will correct. Like he's like his feet will replace themselves and he won't have broken legs or whatever. Like Aslan was like, oh, something, they're worried that his feet are misplaced and he'll fall down when I waken him. But like, really, they were worried that the giant is super mean and
It's a
stuff.
giant.
But
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, that's not. I wasn't really worried about that part.
yeah. 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 I think what I wanted to ask you guys is like, were there any points, and I know that like the allegory, but I feel like there was a couple of lines that were a little bit allegorical to me, but also just hit deeper than I thought they would. And one of them was actually Edmund's line where he's like, how do we know the witch is bad? It's like a very interesting time to be a Christian in the United States. And I think that line of how do we know which side is wrong is something that people never ask themselves. And how do we know we're on the right side?
I think that the innocence of a child in this scenario is kind of speaks volumes. The kids knew immediately, intuitively, that what was going on was wrong. Even Edmund, I think he got pulled in by those Turkish delights, but he really did also know, like this is a bad thing. But he was spiting Peter, so I think it was like a gut reaction that the kids had. And I think adults ignore that because they like justify a lot more because they're just thinking more complexly when you boil it down. It's like Master Yoda said, truly magnificent the mind of a child or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
like that sometimes
I
like,
think
We
Jesus said
are
it first.
really nerding
To
out
be
here.
fair, I think Jesus said, like, prepare yourselves like the mind of a child, but yeah, also Yoda.
but I don't know. I think that this is simplistic, but I think a lot of times if something's right or wrong. I mean, but then again, like you said, Phil, it's way more complex than that. It's just, I think in this scenario, they intuitively knew based on, like you were saying,
Yeah,
Christmas is
like
not
they
coming,
didn't.
which is messed up.
I think what you're saying too is super right though as well. Like sometimes you can convince yourself but really your preconceptions are driving that.
Blocking.
And that's why
Yeah,
children are so great because they don't have preconceptions. And like the
right.
human soul is very good at being able to tell what is right and what is wrong. But then you get all this jumbled by what people tell you. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not really something I considered at all, or like really like took part of. But it's always good things to think about. And like we say a lot of times, you can get many different things out of a book, and it's what you get out of a book that makes, and that's what that book is trying to tell you.
yeah.
I think the Turkish delight one was interesting too because I think there was a couple different ways to look at that. As a kid, you're like, don't take candy from a stranger, so you kind of have like that aspect of it, like,
Dude, honestly, a good starting lesson. Like,
Yeah.
solid.
like, come on, dude, you learned that stuff day one. But then also the analogy from the Bible, like the apple from the Garden of Eden, that they ate was,
Yeah,
True.
so you kind of have that spin on things and the start of bringing sin in the world. And then also, I think just kind of in everyday adult life, I mean, a lot of things that look really good on the outside are really good initially, and then kind of lead you down the wrong path if you don't really take the time to know what's behind it or who's behind it. Just kind of those distractions or those temptations. So yeah, a couple different routes, I guess you could go looking at that.
Yeah, I like the apple. I didn't put that together.
yeah, I didn't either.
The Turkish light with the apple. That definitely, I could see that.
I think that the Chronicles of Narnia movie, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, did me dirty on what Turkish delight was for like 15 years because it's steaming. It's
Yeah.
steaming in that
Wait,
movie.
I
And I
was gonna
thought it
say
was like
this.
a pot pie, bro.
No,
It's
it's gross.
a candy.
I looked it up.
No, it's candy. It's
No,
delicious.
it's amazing.
It's so
No,
good.
It looks so gross.
It's like
online.
a big
So
like
good.
jelly, or it's like
It's like
juji
nougat
fruit.
with-
It's like
it's
a
like-
big
nougat with
powdered
coffee
sugar
and shit.
juji fruit.
Like
you're
three
not,
juicy
like,
fruits
putting
on
those
top of each
back.
other.
No,
Like,
they're so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so weird that that's what he chose because it looks like a pot pie when she makes it, and then
Yeah.
he's just
The
like
movie
downing
is-
it, and then dude, that was like the worst thing about that movie for sure. That's so funny that you said that, Isaac.
So I actually didn't know what I thought the same thing. Turkish delight was like this hot, like
Yeah.
a
Like
stew
a
or something.
Yeah.
baklava.
Until
Oh.
in Greece we got Turkish delight. They were like, this is like Turkish delight, but it's Greek delight. But it's really just the same thing, and it was amazing. And then I
But
brought
would you
home
eat like 10 of them?
oh yeah, I'd eat the whole box. I
But you're not
brought
a
a
right
box
person
of
to
it
ask.
home,
Yeah.
and I spilled all the powdered sugar on me on the airplane.
You only a child.
Surprising
Phoebe,
thing
only
ever.
a child. Only a
Yeah.
child would eat all 10 at once. Like most people too quick, but I mean everyone
Yeah.
knows that Isaac could eat a
Would do
vast
that.
amount of candy
He's-
at once. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's the candy man.
If me and Edmund were there, we would be.
The book never would have went past that scene. They would have been like, Isaac and Edmund are still here eating Turkish delights for just the next 100 pages.
yeah.
It's getting
I
it's
would've
getting
never gone
it's
back.
getting a bit weird in Narnia.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's funny that we all really targeted the Turkish delight as a concept. I had to look it up. The thought that I had was, and it's in many other books too, how the character who makes a bad decision, so Edmund in this case, he was kind of cajoled by Peter because Peter called him bad for lying about the whole Narnia thing to begin with and not backing Lucy up. And he did this whole bad thing essentially because Peter goaded him into it a bit. And I think to myself, like, what if that didn't happen? Would he still have made those bad decisions? So kind of in line with a little bit of a thought, like you said, Phil. I mean, obviously there would be no book if he hadn't made that bad decision. But I always think about that when characters go down this like very dark path in any book. You're like, if this just one thing would not have happened. But then again, it's like, if people are bad, maybe they'll find another reason to do another bad thing. So maybe
I mean, I
it doesn't
think
matter that
forgiveness
that would have
goes a long
happened.
way. I think that that's something you could take from that sort of lesson, Phoebe. If Peter would have forgiven like right away instead of just shutting Edmund up and being like, "You're mean and stupid," I do think that's a great lesson that I didn't. I mean, I didn't really take that away. I didn't have that thought, but I think that's great.
Yeah, and you could. I don't know if I think of Edmund as bad.
He was kind of a jerk.
He was
I
very
forgot he
bad
was
at the
kind of a
beginning.
jerk.
He was strikingly bad.
I think of him as like
Strikingly?
misguided in like
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
He's a kid.
yeah.
Just like a jerk of a kid.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a jerk.
But then I think that forgiveness goes even farther, Phil, where like, I mean, and then you get into the whole point of the book, like Aslan forgives him, doesn't talk
Yeah.
about it again, truly shows like what forgiveness is. Like it is complete
Mhm.
go. And then obviously goes the extra mile, like sacrificing himself in his place. But yeah, maybe that could be another message. All the kids didn't really forgive him. And then Aslan goes like, you know what, this is actually what needs to happen here.
Yeah.
People make
And then they
mistakes.
did.
Yeah.
And then they won the war.
Yeah.
True.
Something I thought was interesting when I was, I watched a video that was talking about how Narnia isn't actually an allegory, but more of a supposal, which I was a little confused initially on the words or what that meant. But basically, like if you were to, you can't take everything in this book as like a strict allegory, right? Because if you want to compare a lot, Edmund's compared a lot to Judas from the Bible in this, if you're looking at it as an
Right.
allegory, right? Like he betrayed basically his family and then Aslan and but like in the Bible, Judas hung himself, and obviously Edmund didn't hang himself. He was forgiven, and this story had a happy ending. So I think that's just one example of how the whole book isn't necessarily a perfect allegory if you want to look at it from the Christian standpoint. There's a lot of stuff that is, but it's not exactly in line with the complete story. So there's just other, I guess it's a supposal. Probably a bad way of explaining
No,
that, but
I
it
like
was,
that. No, I
I
think
like
that's
that
good. I
too.
think that then this would be a supposal, and then like Animal Farm would be a straight allegory.
yeah, and you kind of brought up
no, that's
the
good.
example from Animal Farm that was much more like this is exactly what happened. You know, there's no
Yeah.
two ways about it. So that a little bit different from this one, I'd say, I guess.
Super cool.
The supposal, our guest teaching our listeners
New,
something
yeah,
new. I
good
love
new
it.
term.
I'm probably just making up words, but if you guys haven't heard of
Yeah,
it,
the supposal,
I'm not a. I
the
listen to.
supposal TM.
Yeah.
TM.
It's because I listen to the audiobook, so you garner some different things, I guess.
That's right.
So who is your guys' favorite character?
Yeah, I think mine is the professor, actually.
That was
I
mine
don't.
too.
Oh, sorry. Have you read The Magician's Nephew?
No, is that the next one?
No,
Or
it's the
the first
sixth
prequel?
one, actually. It's the
I
prequel.
I th-
It was written.
I don't think I could get through it, to be honest with you.
That's surprising because it's super good. So it's basically the prequel, but what I love the most about that one is that he goes to Narnia once and he never gets to go back. And he is
Mm,
so selfless about encouraging the kids to go instead of like trying to go back himself and get back to
mhm.
Narnia. Just wild to me. I mean, he went to Narnia and isn't full throttle wardrobe trying to jump in with the kids. Like really just like
Yeah,
supporting them, making sure that they're nice to each other and adventurous, and thought he was really cool. So
yeah. Kevin, what about you? Who was your favorite character?
Uh, Man, can I let Isaac go first? And that's a good question.
Yeah, Isaac,
I
go
need
go.
another second here.
Think on it.
Yeah.
I think my favorite character is Mr. Beaver.
Good one.
One, I love that his name is just Mr.
Mr.
Beaver,
Beaver,
not
yeah.
like he's just
He's like Mr.
his
Potato Head.
animal. Yeah. And I just think he's like, if we take this away from being a kid's story and blow it up to think of this as an adult, like that takes a lot of guts what he's doing. He's like kind of running the Underground
He's the
Railroad
rebel.
of
Yeah.
Narnia.
Mhm.
At the risk of him and his wife's like life and
Life.
livelihood, that he's there protecting these sons and daughters of Adam and Eve.
Mhm.
So I think really cool, just like a really cool character that maybe doesn't get enough credit in this one usually.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
agreed. Kevin, are you ready?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with Lucy. I think
Good
she's
one.
just so consistent throughout the whole book. And just
Mhm.
always trusting, always believing, kind of just like uh, an innocent kid in one sense, but also so mature in like the whether you want to call it her faith or just her loyalty. And I think you even
Mhm.
see that develop throughout the book, but at the same time, she remains like very grounded and just seems like when you have a kid one day, like I want my daughter to be like that. Like that's just a good just a good kid,
Yeah.
good heart.
Do you know?
Right.
Isn't at the end when Peter's like, we've come so far, but White Stag's not worth it. Isn't Lucy the one that says everything that we've tried? Like, let's keep going,
Yeah,
and that's
Yeah.
Lucy. So like throughout the whole book, yeah, great
yeah,
character,
That's
Kevin.
her.
yeah.
Consistent. So this was a 5 out of 5 book. Mine was the professor also. I just want to put that in there. For the same reasons Phil gave. This was a 5 out of 5 book for me. I really enjoyed it. I've read it a lot as a kid, but now this second reading later in life, yeah, it inspired me. Definitely something I'll read to my kids one day for sure. So thank you, Kevin. What about you? What was your rating of it?
Yeah, I would go 5 out of 5. But you guys have read a lot more books than
Mhm.
me, so your ratings are probably a little more meaningful. But like I mentioned, though, I would recommend next time you go back and do it. I listened to the audiobook on Spotify this time around, and this is really cool. Like obviously, Isaac, I
Mm.
know you love the Harry Potter audiobooks and you've listened to them a million times, but it like for me, not being a big reader, but also I do enjoy books, so audiobooks good way to go, and it really just brings the book to life, and I can do it while I'm driving and just kind of knock out two birds with one stone. So anyway, all that to say 5 out of 5, but the audiobook definitely added a good element to it for me.
Yeah, great plug for the readers too. Like if you're not a big reader, a good way to get involved with the podcast and the book club. I love that, Kevin. Thank you. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I also want to say that like with the audiobooks, any published by like British people before 1980, it seems like they all have the same reader, and he's so good. So like, would definitely recommend also. Yeah, I think probably a 4 out of 5 for me. It's actually not my favorite in the
Phil,
series, so I feel like I can't give it a 5 out of 5.
what's your favorite?
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so I would feel bad giving 2 books in the same series a 5 out of 5. I'm trying to be exclusive on my 5 out of 5s, but very
Mm.
good. Definitely worth the read if you haven't read it. I think this is one of those books that I would be like, everyone should read this book, and everyone has the time to read this book as well. So it's
Yeah,
definitely one
good
that
point.
you can go for.
Really good point. Isaac, what about you?
5 as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think in the beginning, it doesn't. This is the quintessential fantasy book for me. Yeah, and I would give a plug for the whole series. I read the whole series as a kid, and I don't really remember much except for The Magician's Nephew, which is like the prequel of this one, and then this one. But I remember everything being pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really good. I would say if you liked this book, if you liked The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, you should read Impossible Creatures by Kate Rundell and then listen to our podcast. I think it's in that same before young adult genre. It's a chapter book, ages, if you're an advanced 6-year-old reading all the way up until like 10, 11. But again, anyone could enjoy
All
it.
the
But
way
yeah,
to 32 at least.
exactly. Confirmed on the podcast. Yeah, but I would say Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. That's what the book I would recommend. Isaac, what about you?
Mine is Golden Compass. Like I said in the beginning, it's the first book in the His Dark Materials trilogy. Very different allegory again, so just know that, but a really great story.
Phil?
Yeah, mine would be Oversea and Understone by Susan Cooper. It's actually about 3 British children, Simon, Jane, and Barney. It's a great adventure tale with 3 British children. So it's basically rinse and repeat.
Nice. I had never heard of that one. Kevin, what about you?
I don't know. I'm just gonna have to go back and I know I said Lord of the Flies at the beginning of this, but I'm just sticking to my guns on that one.
Good.
Sorry.
Good.
I did the same thing.
Not much else input there, but
And I love that because that's also a podcast book.
book.
So double
Yeah.
plug for Lord of the Flies. I love it.
this is not a paid
As always,
advertisement.
before we, yeah, exactly. As always, before we go, we like to talk about what we're reading next time, and this is a very different book than The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's almost, I think it's like 10 times as long as it or something. And it's about Mark Twain. It's a biography. Isaac, would you tell us just a little bit about that book before we go?
Yes. So this book is Mark Twain by Ron Chernow, and it's a biography that follows Samuel Clemens from his early life through fame, showing how humor, debt, and family loss shaped his career. It highlights his changing views on race, business failures, and the contrast between his public persona and private struggles. And if you are attempting to finish this book before the podcast comes out, you need to start now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We are always good for a few laughs. And in this case, you were good for a really good book recommendation. So thank you again for taking the time to talk with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I think it's awesome, the sibling thing you guys got going, and I'll definitely be listening more and more here on out now. So yeah, thanks a lot for putting up audiobooks, baby.
Yeah,
all
for
about
sure.
the audiobook. I haven't read a book in years.
This is your guys' bi-weekly reminder to call someone that you love, tell them that you love them, tell them about a good book that you've recently read. It should be The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And until we talk again, stay classy, second pagers. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Kevin. Bye, guys.
See you guys. Thank you.
First page.